Sometimes it's not the loud goodbye that breaks your heart. It's the silence. It's the way someone who once made you feel like you were everything suddenly becomes a ghost in your life. And if you've ever been with an avoidant, this shift doesn't come with closure, it comes quietly, subtly, until you're left wondering if they're ever coming back. So, how do you know when an avoidant is truly done? Not just pulling away for space, but done. The first thing you'll notice is the emotional vacuum. They stop sharing anything real with you, their thoughts, their feelings, their worries. Conversations become surface, level, or mechanical. It's like talking to someone who's already halfway out the door. Then comes the disconnection of presence. Even when they're physically around, they feel absent. You sense their attention is elsewhere, on their phone, on work, anywhere but you. It's not that they're distracted, it's that they no longer want to be present. After that, they stop making plans, no future conversations, no next weekend, no we should do this. They stop imagining a life with you in it. And when someone stops planning a future with you, they've usually stopped picturing one. Next, you'll notice a cold indifference to your emotions. Things that used to upset them or make them protective don't move them anymore. You could be hurting in front of them, and it barely registers. That shift from caring to numb is a powerful sign they've emotionally detached. And finally, there's a quiet acceptance in their behavior. They're no longer trying to fix things, argue, or even defend themselves. They've let go, and when an avoidant lets go, they rarely come back because in their mind, they've made peace with leaving. I know that hurts, but here's what you need to hear. When someone has emotionally checked out, your job isn't to drag them back. It's to choose yourself, because the moment they stopped fighting for the relationship is the moment you have to start fighting for your own heart. There comes a point with an avoidant where the silence between you becomes heavier than any argument ever could. It's not the kind of silence that happens after a fight, where both of you are still emotionally engaged and waiting to make things right. It's different. It's a cold, hollow quiet that feels like you're speaking into a void. And this is often the very first sign that they're truly done. Because when an avoidant is finished emotionally, they don't slam the door. They slowly stop showing up. You'll notice it in the little things first. Conversations that once felt alive and full of energy start to feel flat, forced, or one-sided. Where they used to open up about their fears, their dreams, their random thoughts in the middle of the day, they now keep things strictly surface level. They might still respond to you, but their answers are short, factual, and lack warmth. It's like they've switched off the emotional channel. You can feel that they're not sharing themselves anymore. They're just giving you information. And it hurts because you remember what it felt like when they did share. Avoidants can be deeply vulnerable when they trust you. They might have let you see parts of them no one else gets to see. Their insecurities, their struggles, their hopes. That emotional intimacy once made you feel close, connected, and special. So when that stops, when they suddenly seem emotionally unreachable, it's disorienting. It makes you question what you did wrong or what changed. But here's the truth: when an avoidant has decided, consciously or subconsciously, that they're done, they will begin withdrawing their emotional energy first, because to them, emotional intimacy feels like danger when they no longer see a future in the connection. They can't sustain vulnerability with someone they plan to leave behind, so they protect themselves by shutting it down early. You might find yourself trying harder to pull something out of them, asking how they feel, what's on their mind if something's wrong. But their responses will be vague or deflective. They'll say, "I'm fine," or "it's nothing," or change the subject altogether, not because they're trying to hurt you, but because they no longer see the point in letting you in. And that's the painful part. They've already started building a wall where there used to be a bridge. The hardest thing is how subtle it is. There's no dramatic goodbye, no big fight, just less of them. Every day, less laughter, less eye contact, less curiosity about your world. The emotional current that used to run between you goes quiet, and it leaves you feeling alone, even when they're sitting right next to you. This emotional vacuum is often the first clear sign that they've detached on the deepest level. And once that part of them has shut off, they rarely reopen it. Because in their mind, they're not taking space anymore. They're already gone. One of the most painful shifts you'll ever experience with an avoidant is when they're still physically there, but emotionally they're already gone. It's not like they leave abruptly. In fact, they might still sit next to you, eat dinner with you, or even sleep beside you. But you can feel it, their presence isn't real anymore. It's like being with a shadow of who they used to be. And that quiet disconnection is often one of the clearest signs they've already checked out. You notice it in the way their eyes no longer light up when you walk into the room. The spark that once danced in their expression when they saw you has dimmed. Their body is present, but their attention isn't. When you talk, they don't really listen. They nod, they murmur yeah or hum, but you can tell their mind is somewhere else entirely. And what hurts most is remembering how present they used to be, how they used to hang on to every word, how they would notice the smallest details about your day, how they seemed fully with you. That version of them feels like a memory now. Even during shared moments, there's a distance. You might be sitting next to them watching something, but it's like they've built an invisible wall around themselves. They don't reach out to hold your hand like they used to. They don't instinctively lean into you or look for your gaze. The physical closeness remains, but the emotional closeness has evaporated. It feels like being in the same space as a stranger who just happens to know your routines. What makes this so confusing is that avoidants are often very good at maintaining appearances. They might still fulfill basic responsibilities, still do the day things, which makes it easy to convince yourself it's just a phase or that they're distracted by stress. But deep down, you know the difference between someone who's distracted and someone who's detached. Distraction has moments of slipping back into connection, detachment does not. This disconnection of presence is their way of easing themselves out of the relationship emotionally before they exit physically. For avoidance, closeness can feel suffocating once they decide the relationship is no longer where they want to be. So instead of confronting that decision directly, they begin pulling their emotional presence away bit by bit. It's their way of cushioning the break for themselves, even if it shatters you in the process. And that's what makes it so painful, because when someone you love is in the same room but no longer with you, it leaves you feeling invisible. You can be laughing, telling a story, reaching out, and they're just blank. It's like they've already left, and you're the only one who hasn't been told yet. That emotional vacancy, hidden behind the illusion of presence, is one of the most heartbreaking confirmations that they've emotionally let go. One of the clearest signs an avoidant is done, yet one of the easiest to overlook at first, is when they quietly stop making plans with you. It doesn't usually happen in an obvious or dramatic way. There's no big declaration. Instead, it shows up in the subtle absence of something that used to be there, the conversations about the future, the little we should do this moments, the shared excitement about what's ahead. Those start to disappear, and in their place comes silence. In the beginning, they may have talked about everything: weekend trips, holidays, birthdays months away. They'd say things like, "Next summer, we should go here," or "I can't wait for you to meet this person," or "when we move in together." Those moments gave you hope. They painted pictures of a life you were building side by side, and that gave the relationship momentum. But when an avoidant begins to emotionally exit, that forward energy grinds to a halt. At first, it might seem like they're just busy or distracted. They'll stop bringing up plans, and when you do, they'll brush it off. If you mention an event coming up, they'll say, "Let's see," or "I'm not sure," or "I'll let you know." It might sound casual, but underneath it is a quiet pulling away. They're no longer mentally including you in their future, so they stop making commitments that would bind them to it. This shift can be incredibly unsettling because the lack of planning creates a fog of uncertainty. You start to feel like you're walking on eggshells, unsure if you should bring up next week or next month in case it pushes them further away. You can sense that they're resisting being tied to anything that suggests long-term connection. And deep down, you know what that means. They don't see you as part of their future anymore. What makes this hurt even more is the emotional contrast, because planning isn't just about logistics, it's about hope. It's about saying, I see you in my life going forward. So when someone stops doing that, it's not just the absence of plans, it's the absence of belief in a shared future. And for an avoidant, once that belief fades, they quietly begin emotionally detaching to protect themselves from the closeness they no longer want. You might try to reignite it, suggesting a trip, asking about the weekend, trying to pull them into excitement again. But their responses will feel half-hearted, hesitant, or even dismissive. Not because they're trying to hurt you, but because they've already emotionally stepped out of the picture you're still trying to paint. And that's the heartbreaking part. When they stop making plans, they've already stopped imagining a future with you. Their mind has moved on, even if their body hasn't. And the relationship starts to feel like it's standing still because one of you is still dreaming forward, while the other has already stopped looking ahead at all. One of the most painful moments in loving an avoidant is when you realize your emotions no longer seem to matter to them. It's not that they disagree with your feelings or argue against them, it's that they simply stop responding. Where they once seemed to care deeply about how you felt, now it's like nothing you say can reach them. This cold indifference doesn't arrive suddenly with fireworks. It creeps in quietly, until one day you notice that the person who used to be moved by your tears or lifted by your laughter no longer reacts at all. In the beginning, they probably cared in their own quiet way. Even if they struggled to express it perfectly, they noticed your moods. If you were upset, they tried to comfort you. If you were excited, they shared in your excitement. That emotional responsiveness is what made you feel safe, it made you feel seen. But when an avoidant has emotionally checked out, that responsiveness disappears. It's like you could be having a breakdown in front of them, and they'd just sit there, detached, offering nothing more than a flat, sorry you feel that way. What makes this especially hard to accept is how cold it feels. When someone who once protected your heart starts treating your feelings like they're an inconvenience, it cuts deep. You start to second guess yourself, wondering if you're overreacting or being too sensitive. But the truth is, what you're sensing isn't you being dramatic, it's them no longer being emotionally invested. Because when someone still cares, your emotions stir something in them. When they don't, your emotions feel irrelevant to them. For an avoidant, this coldness is often a defense mechanism. When they've decided deep down that they're done, staying emotionally engaged with your feelings becomes too risky for them. It might pull them back in, and they don't want that. So they numb themselves instead. They detach not just from their own emotions, but from yours as well. It's their way of making the separation easier on themselves, even if it makes it excruciating for you. You'll see it in small, subtle ways. You tell them something hurt you, and instead of empathy, they shrug. You share something joyful, and they barely react. You express that you're feeling distant, and they look at you with blank eyes as if they don't understand why it even matters. That absence of emotional reaction tells you more than their words ever could. It says, I'm not here anymore. And perhaps the cruelest part is how they can seem almost calm while you're in pieces. There's no anger, no frustration, just a kind of quiet indifference, as if they've already disconnected from the bond you're still trying to protect. That shift from caring deeply to not being moved at all is often the clearest sign that an avoidant has already let go of the relationship in their heart, even if they haven't said it out loud. There's a very particular kind of silence that comes when an avoidant is truly done, and it's not the tense silence of someone who's angry or the wounded silence of someone who's hurt. It's different, it's calm, it's almost unnervingly peaceful, and that's what makes it so heartbreaking. Because when an avoidant reaches this stage, they're no longer fighting, arguing, or defending themselves. They've stopped trying to fix the relationship. They've accepted in their mind that it's over even if they haven't said the words out loud yet. In the earlier stages, even when things were rocky, you probably still saw signs of effort. Maybe they would explain their side when you were upset. Maybe they would get defensive or try to reassure you when you felt insecure. That resistance, even if it was messy, meant they still cared enough to be engaged. They were still invested enough to want to be understood. But when an avoidant has made the quiet decision to let go, that drive to explain or defend themselves fades away completely. They don't argue anymore, not because they've found peace with you, but because they've found peace without you. It's deeply disorienting. You could pour your heart out, tell them how much you're hurting, and they'll just listen with a distant calm, not cold, not angry, just detached. They don't push back. They don't make promises. They don't even try to reassure you, and part of you wants to believe that this calm is maturity, that maybe things are finally settling. But it's not peace between you, it's the peace that comes from giving up the fight altogether. Avoidants often find conflict draining, especially when it threatens their sense of emotional safety. So when they no longer care about salvaging the relationship, they instinctively pull out of the struggle. They stop initiating hard conversations. They stop bringing up issues to work on. Even if something clearly bothers them, they let it slide. Because deep down, they know they're not planning to stay long enough for it to matter. This is why their silence can feel so strangely stable. It's not resolution, it's resignation. You'll feel it in the way they stop meeting you halfway. Problems go unaddressed, tension goes unspoken. Where they used to at least try to patch things, now they just let the cracks spread. And while you're desperately trying to save what's left, they're already emotionally walking away from the rubble. They've stopped holding the rope, and you're the only one still pulling on it. And that's the quiet tragedy of this stage. It doesn't look like a breakup on the surface. They are still around, still going through the motions. But there's no fight left in them, and without that fight, there's no relationship. That quiet acceptance, that eerie emotional stillness, is the final confirmation that in their heart, they've already said goodbye. And if you find yourself standing in the silence of all these signs, wondering how someone who once held your heart so closely could now feel like a stranger, remember this: their detachment is not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of their fear of closeness. When an avoidant has truly let go, your power lies not in chasing what's gone, but in choosing yourself with the same intensity you once chose them. Let their silence be the space where you rebuild your strength, not the place where you lose your voice. Thank you for listening and for having the courage to face the truth, because sometimes walking away from what won't love you back is the first step toward finding what will.